When it rains, it pours. It really is pouring on Inter right now, guys. Welcome back on the Uncle Sharma channel. Make sure you leave a thumbs up and subscribe. We are here to obviously talk about tomorrow's match, which is Venezia versus Inter. But first of all, let's talk about the current situation. 2025, the year started so well, didn't it? 2-0 against Atalanta. Dumfries, man of the match performance. Boom. Nice start. But then we ended up actually reviving our cousins, kickstarting the Conceição era for those guys. Whatever you think of that final, as you know, as that trophy, whether you consider it an important trophy or not, we have revived the cousins. But that also has cost us our squad health. That final, or those two games, the semi-final and final, have cost us now Jan Bisek, Hakan, we saw limp off. We saw also Mkhitaryan today or tomorrow probably won't play part of the game. You know it's bad when Mkhitaryan is missing a game. He is a machine, a robot. It's like, you know, one guy comes back in, one guy goes out, because Pavard's coming back in, now Bisek goes out. Acerbi was coming back, and now we lose someone else. So it is going to be limited decisions, options for Inzaghi ahead of that game. But first of all, should we question, is there criticism towards Inzaghi for the way that he handled the Supercoppa? You know, we saw Giampiero Gasperini, his Atalanta team, for the first time ever in the Scudetto challenge for now. And he, you know, you could tell he pretty much sacrificed in the semi-final, completely rotated the Atalanta team, tried to bring on some big boys, obviously, in the second half we saw, but still, is that the way Inzaghi should have approached it? Maybe not as heavily, in my opinion. I mean, it's easy to say now, of course. I don't want to be that guy like, I told you, he should have rotated, man. But for the final, obviously, once you get to the final, you just have to play your best team and you're trying to win, especially with I can't criticize Inzaghi's mentality when it comes to this. And the boys, the players have always talked about it. Every competition that Inter is in, no other team in Italy talks like this. You know, all the other teams are talking about, oh, yeah, you know, we're happy with top 4. You know, we'll see what up. Inter are saying, whatever competition we're in, even the Champions League, they're saying, we want to get to the end of it, try to win it, every single competition. And that's what Inzaghi is trying to do. So I can't come here with a kind of bit of a loser mentality, say he shouldn't try to win. But at the same time, the Atalanta game, the fact that we even saw, you know, Mkhitaryan having to play back-to-back games like that, shock that a 36-year-old is now, you know, feeling the fatigue. Can he rotate a little bit better? I think definitely this thing, you know, we can still criticize Inzaghi. We don't have to, you know, worship the ground Inzaghi walks on as much as we love him. Some people go on the other end of the scale sometimes criticizing him, but, you know, there's still definitely things, you know, in terms of in-game management. We know he's still at times not maybe the best at that. The rotations, I think he's done very well this year in terms of, you know, having this kind of Champions League rotation and Serie A rotation. But then I think he can also have some halfway point. You know, it doesn't have to be the Champions League team, the complete rotation, and Serie A team. But then he can have like 1 or 2 or 3 rotations in some games as well to kind of keep things ticking along. But yeah, that's the situation we are in. Whatever, regardless of what you think of Inzaghi's rotation or lack of. And this is the predicted lineup for tomorrow. So, as I said, Bisek is out. Pavard is back, but not ready to start yet. Of course, he's been out for almost a month, isn't he? So, yeah. But please, Benji Pavard, please, Benji, we need you at your best like you were last season. Last season, people forget, Benji Pavard was an upgrade on Milan Skriniar, not the Milan Skriniar of his last season, like in general, Milan Skriniar, you know, the way he was solid defensively, but what he brought us going forward as well. He was a breath of fresh air. And we haven't really seen that this year, this season. But, you know, tomorrow, Matty Dams, we know, and this is the position I want to keep him in permanently. You know, I'm happy to keep Matty Dams, you know, for a while, for a few more years, if he, you know, stays in good shape as a right centre back. But I just don't want to see him as a right wing back anymore. I think he will do a great job tomorrow. De Vrij needs to, I'm sure even De Vrij, you know, he came off in the Milan game with a bit of fatigue, with a bit of cramp. because he's been playing a lot of football. This one is a little bit more forced, of course, because we know Cherby's injury. So he's just going to have to grit his teeth, and hopefully Cherby is slowly able to come back in. Now we need a Cherby, not as like we just need numbers now at the back. Whoever it is, just come back in whatever shape you are. And then Bastoni, of course, he's played a lot of football this year. Much more solid, much more consistent minutes. Usually, we know Bastoni, sometimes he gets this kind of flu-like symptoms, or he's known to get little niggling injuries. But this season, actually, he's been a lot more reliable physically, and he's just going to have to continue at the moment. Obviously, at least we've got Carlos Augusto in that position to kind of give him a breather, or Di Marco. Di Marco as well, who's played a lot of football for Italy and Inter. These guys just need to, forget about the amount of minutes they played and just keep going, keep plucking along. Please, guys, just keep going and try not to get injured. And the injuries at the back, though, also mean that Inzaghi has to start giving some potential minutes to Thomas Palacios. Of course, in this game, Carlos Augusto probably, but if Di Marco needs a breather, Carlos Augusto is going to have to come in. Or is he going to bring in Buchanan in? Like, it's either going to be Buchanan or Thomas Palacios are going to start needing more minutes in this team now. I know Inzaghi's not convinced of either of them, especially with Thomas Palacios. We know it was a bit of a weird signing in terms of actual usefulness. I didn't mind it in terms of 6.5 million, it's not really that big of a deal. But is Inzaghi really going to use him? We've seen him. He's played like 25 minutes in total or something like that. But Buchanan is the one. We saw even some Roma links for Buchanan yesterday. Roma want to loan Buchanan, and Inter have said no, only a permanent deal. And Buchanan apparently wants to play his card and try to win a spot at Inter, which I think is going to be really, really difficult. Inzaghi just doesn't trust him defensively, but he's going to have to, or on the right as well, Buchanan, because Darmian is starting. Darmian is Darmian Dumfries as the right wing backs. And I would like to see Buchanan being used more as a wing back. So Buchanan, Thomas Palacios, I think they're going to need to start being more integrated at the moment in this team. In midfield, everyone's favorite player at the moment, Christian Aslani, our Albanian star boy. I know he's definitely, 95% of the fan base is completely, ready to cut ties with Aslani. But, leaving that one game aside, these are the type of games where Aslani has stepped in the past. Don't be reactive. I trust Aslani to come in against Venezia. I mean, yeah, if tomorrow he steps in and he's still not good enough with Zielinski and Barella next to him, and, this is, still a good, very strong team, and Aslani just isn't able to do it, then you just know, not even loan him out, just sell him. He's just, mentally not ready for Inter. But, Hakan's out. I don't want to see Zielinski in that spot. I don't understand people that say Zielinski, Aslani is weak defensively, weak physically. Play Zielinski instead. Like what? Zielinski is literally, he hates defending. This guy, you can tell, he physically cringes at defending. Like when he goes in for a tackle, it's like the most painful thing to watch. Like you can tell he says himself that he doesn't like playing it for Poland. He doesn't like playing it for Inter, but he says, he'll do the job for the team. Of course, on the ball, Zielinski is, his right and left foot is beautiful. Yeah, but if you're worried about the defensive side of things, why would the hell would you play Zielinski? Juventus game, 4 goals conceded. Example, Exhibit A. But anyway, Barella also another guy that probably has to grit his teeth. He's played a lot of football, and in midfield again, we haven't really got many options at the moment. If Mkhitaryan isn't fully fit, but I'm sure he'll probably make an appearance. It doesn't show here, but we're having to call up 2 of the youth players tomorrow. I think it's going to be Berenbrook and Topalovic, which obviously they won't get any minutes, but it shows you kind of the situation at the moment. And Frattesi, obviously the man on everyone's lips at the moment because of the transfer dealings and his transfer request. I guess you could even say he's almost put in like a transfer request at the moment. Apparently, he's not fully fit. This would have been a nice game for, redeem himself. I think he's going to stay until the summer. I don't see a team coming in. If it's true that Inter are demanding 45 million euros for this guy, unless Napoli, that Cavara deal happens and they have all this cash to spend, or some, as Anthony said on Inter Worldwide, some stupid Premier League team comes in. Reports are Tottenham and Newcastle both are interested. I don't really see anything happening until the summer for Frattesi. So I wouldn't actually be. I mean, I do want him to like play his part like he did last season. If he does stay, just screw your head together, sort yourself out, mate, and do your job. And I do trust him to come in just like he did last season. He just needs to, lock in like he did last year with that hunger and that grinta that he brings us. But apparently, even he's got like a small calf issue. So everyone is literally, it seems like no one is 100% fit, which is really, really concerning at the moment. At the same time, you gotta put things into context. Other teams in Serie A have had also just worse. I mean, Juve have been absolutely ravaged with injuries. Milan at times as well have had lots of injuries. This is nothing new. All the games we've been playing, the intensity of modern football, it happens. It's going to happen. The predicted lineup also from Gazzetta is the exact same as the Sky Sport Italia. Let's just double check. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, forced, the lineup. The only one I would say, I would have liked to continue with Mehdi Taremi up front. I would like to see him getting that continuity, especially after his best performance in the Inter shirt. I would have liked to see him, continue to play, maybe with Marcus Thuram up front. Lautaro played both the games in Supercoppa. And let's not forget, I mean, probably the most key point in this whole injury drama at the moment is that Inzaghi is not going to get any time, or the players are not really going to get any time to kind of bed in or have, some training time. It's going to be game, 1 day recovery, maybe one training session, and that's it. And then you're off to the next game. We've got away game tomorrow. By the way, it's 2 p.m. kickoff time. Don't get caught out tomorrow against Venezia. Then Wednesday, literally, how many days is that? 3 days? What days is it today? 11, 15, 4 days. 3 days, 3 days. Bologna at home. They've been, doing better under Italiano, so not easy. Then Empoli, 4 days later. Then Sparta Prague in the Champions League. You have to win that game to kind of secure that top 8 spot. And it's away. Then Lecce away 4 days later. Then Monaco 3 days later. And then the Milan derby once again 3 days later. And then that stupid extra Coppa Italia game that we now have to play against Lazio 3 days later. And then Inter Fiorentina 4 days later. And then probably in between that, they're going to squeeze in. It doesn't show yet because they haven't confirmed it. But the Fiorentina Inter game, the one that, because of the Eduardo Bove situation, got delayed, that's going to be probably played between this Inter Fiorentina and Juventus game, or somewhere in February, they said. So it's an absolutely crazy set of fixtures coming up in January and February. So Inzaghi really is going to earn his money in these coming weeks. It's going to be a very busy period for us coming up, guys. So strap yourself in, put your seatbelts on. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but let's see where this ride takes us. Does it take us to the promised land, to the top of Serie A, or not? I mean, if Inter still have these 2 games in hand, or 1 game in hand, whichever way you want to look at it, compared to Napoli, we have 2. If we win 2 games, technically we could be top. But that's not how things work, Napoli going to continue playing. Inter going to continue having these 2 games in hand until that Fiorentina game is played. But yeah, the fixture list for January, in theory, we know how sometimes with Inter, the fixture list might actually look easier in January in terms of the teams we play, and the February one looks like the harder one. But then we know sometimes Inter work the other way around. They, they struggle against the minnows and then do better against the bigger teams. Although this year our big game record at the moment isn't fantastic, and we definitely need to improve on it. especially against Milan. Hopefully Bisak is back by that game. But anyway, going back to tomorrow's game, this is a perfectly good enough lineup to beat this Venezia team. Venezia, who actually gave us a bit of a trouble even at home, only 1-0 win. Filip Stankovic had a great game, so I'm expecting him to have another great game tomorrow. Oristanio, ex-Inter, another ex-Inter that looks like might start. Franco Carboni, the other Carboni brother, hasn't got too many minutes this year, so let's see. We can check him out, how he performs. But yeah, one of the worst teams in the league. They're still bottom. I'm sure they're still bottom. Oh no, Monza moved there, so they're not bottom anymore, but still one of the worst teams in the league. We should be winning this, even with this rotated lineup. I'm going for a 2-0. 2-1. 2-1 victory for Inter. I think Lautaro continues his goal scoring, and maybe Zielinski gets a goal. That's my prediction. You guys let me know in the comments down below. What do you make of it all? The rotations, Inzaghi's choices. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. See you tomorrow for the post-match reaction of Venezia versus Inter. Forza Inter.